Hello, folks. Welcome to this episode of Al's Joint. I'll be joined today by my co-host Dennis Painter as we delve into all the madness that's coming out of Washington, D.C. So as we head into this holiday season, I hope that people look at themselves in the mirror and reflect upon what we're supposed to be doing in this country. So as we pay homage to the OJs, and I can't hardly wait for Christmas, let's take the gloves off and let's get at it. Hello, my brother. How are you today?
Well, I'm still above ground, and I plan on staying that way.
I can agree. I'll tell you what, though, it's been some madness in Washington, D.C. Every time you think that this administration is going to take a week off from the madness, they do something else.
Al, I think it's gone beyond the definition of madness. It's in the terms that I see, it's insanity.
I agree. So let's jump right into it. We have the Comey James case is getting kicked out, thrown out of court. So Trump's attempt to target some of his political enemies hit a bump in the road. Now, I know they're going to try to appeal, but I don't see those cases doing anything other than being kicked out or them being released if they had a trial. But this kind of shows you that although DEI hires that he put in place is making a mockery of the judiciary system. Because I even think Pam Bondi is a DEI hire. She wasn't qualified. She just knew how to kind of stay below the radar until she was able to maybe pick up some of the basics. But these other folks they put in office, it's just a joke.
I'm looking at the James Comey and Letitia James situation. The woman that was in charge, the Halligan, was Lindsay Halligan, the prosecutor, filed charges against Comey and James 4 days after she was put in office. And the reason that she put in office is because the previous attorney said there wasn't enough evidence. And Trump wanted them, what he called his enemies, he wanted them prosecuted. He didn't care. And that tells us the type of president that we have. He's going to punish anyone and everyone he can that disagrees with him, even if those other people are right.
And American people, and when I say the American people, I'm talking about the MAGA folks who were screaming about waste of their tax dollars. They're wasting millions of dollars on these frivolous charges because you have a madman in the White House.
Well, you go beyond that a little bit and you look at who he's putting in place, and they're people that have no experience for the jobs, and they're just blind followers. You take Halligan, she was a former USA beauty pageant contestant and an insurance attorney. Okay. And of course, she helped Trump with some personal legal stuff, but she had no experience whatsoever in criminal cases, no experience whatsoever in high profile federal cases. So he needs loyalty around him, not intelligence. And that's going to get him in more and more trouble. And as we see these cases being thrown out, I think Comey's case, I don't see it going anywhere for a number of reasons. But basically, there's just not enough evidence, and they went beyond the 5-year period. I don't think Letitia James is going to go anywhere either, but they'll keep it in the news as punishment.
Yeah. Now, then, if you expand on the DEI hires, Hasseth from the Department of War, this guy was, him and Patel, the FBI director, were on podcasts. I guess, can you imagine if they gave you, the FBI director job because you had a podcast that was supporting Trump and they made me the head of the Department of War? That would be a joke. They would come after them so hard and come after us so hard, but people justify everything that Trump does, at least his base does.
Yeah, and I agree with you. You've been saying it. I used to think that there had to be some common sense in that 35% or 37% that would at least look at some things and say, hey, wait a minute. But you were right. There's that percentage. They don't even look at anything other than Trump and his orange hair, and they don't care. If he's wrong, it's somebody's picking on him. It's just like kids. It's not fair, even though he's guilty. He's got all kinds of charges around him, and people still support it. But I think there's a breakaway, and I was watching some stuff this week, and it's like Trump's almost, not quite, but almost seems like he's in retreat. Okay, because he's lost just about every single thing that's occurred in the last month. You know, he lost elections in several states, and he's lost the thing with the New York mayor. He's now kissing the New York mayor's behind. He lost to that. He looked like he was a defeated pup, you know, on TV. I don't know whether you saw that or not, but he was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it was
I seen it. And you say he kisses behind. I'm telling you, he kissed his ass. He kissed his ass.
well,
So I
he
want to
did
know
that.
what MAGA people think about that. Your president rubbing the hand of the mayor of this socialist, and even had the audacity to say, "You can call me a socialist." What the hell? He doesn't stand for anything. He has no moral compass. He has no political platform he runs on. He just goes with whatever he thinks that day, and 90% of the time he's freaking wrong.
99% of the time he's wrong. Here's what baffles me, Al. Okay, make a fool out of me once, shame on you. Make a fool out of me every single time, every single day, shame on me. And these MAGA folks, come on. He was saying New York City is going to be destroyed because Mandani won the election. Now he's sucking up to him. You know, it's like, okay, now MAGA's got egg on their face. How do they go out in public? I don't know. I mean, because they went out in public and said, "Oh yeah, Trump's right about this socialist. It's going to hell. New York's going to hell." And now Trump's kissing his ass. Okay, now what's the MAGA folks going to do? I would be embarrassed.
I don't think they're embarrassed. That's a crazy part because you think about it. He told folks that on national TV in a speech that he's going to bring Chinese workers in here to do the AI work because his base wasn't smart enough to do it. He told folks that he's going to release the Epstein file guide, and they said, "I changed my mind." He told folks that smart people hate me, which means that dumb people love him. They don't
Yeah.
care. And the reason why I believe they don't care is because he's given them the biggest promise that they wanted, and that is to make America white again. And he's
I agree.
delivered on that. And everything he's doing to stay in power and maintain as much power can keep that promise going. So they don't care. They want him to do anything that he can to maintain the control he has over the government so that he can keep fulfilling that promise to them. That's all they care about. So he delivered to them.
Well, I think he may be, but he's also just like the Letitia James case and the James Comey case. He's losing because his popularity is the lowest of any president in modern time. Okay, his popularity has plummeted. If we had an election today, he would lose. Okay, he would
Yeah,
lose.
he would get wiped off the earth, but unfortunately, there will be no election now.
He's going to have to do a lot of kissing ass between now and the next election just to save the Republican Party. Trump's like me. We're not going to be around forever. The Republican Party's got to carry this burden of injustice. This is what you stand for forever. I mean, the people that were elected, this is who you are. You're for an all-white America. You're against all people of color. You go after people that have a different opinion. You break the law. You don't care about the Constitution. This is the Republican Party. This is what we're facing. And that's what they're going to have to carry with them after I'm gone and after Trump is gone. That's who they are.
Agreed. I'm just so angry. I'm angry at the fact that progressives keep having to bail these far right-wing nuts out year after year, decade after decade. When we fight and fight to try to get some type of affordable health care program. We all looked at universal health care, but it was so easy for the rich people who had, and the rich politicians who had health care from the time they're elected until they're in the grave, fighting against health care for working people. And working people join in that fight against them. And finally, we break through with the Affordable Care Act. And the far right-wing nuts labeled it Obamacare, thinking that tag would be a negative and they would be able to get rid of it. And people embrace it and say, hey, it's just helped me out. And it kept the cost of premiums from skyrocketing every year like we were used to for decades.
Right.
And so for years, we got to fight with them to help protect them from losing their health care. It's almost like this is the lesson you're going to have to go through. Unfortunately, we got to suffer too, because those folks put themselves in that position and we got to fight not only for ourselves, but to help pull them up by the bootstrap. Same fight went on with Social Security, with the Medicare, with the National Labor Relations Board to be able to allow people to fight back against their bosses, with OSHA, right? All these things were put in place to protect working class people were fought for by progressives, and these far right-wing nuts always fought against it. And now we got to go and try to save them again.
I understand the frustration. Like we've said many times, between you and I, we've negotiated hundreds of contracts, but there was always pushback from within, and that was pushback from people who didn't support the union, thinking that the company gave them everything, and there was always pushback from the company. The employees were valuable up until contract time, and then they wanted to take stuff away from them, and it just my mindset has been that the struggle between the very powerful rich against the middle class and the poor, and that will continue. The problem is, I did a little survey, and most of the people that's receiving federal benefits are in the red states, and most of them are white. Now, the majority of the population was also white. But what do we hear? Mexicans getting this, and people of color getting this, and all that. So it's always been a fight now, and sometimes you get tired, and then you got to say we are on the right side of history. We have to keep fighting. That's the only way you progress. You either go forward or you go backwards. There is no other choice. There's no rest. It's a constant battle. I used to think, Al, it would be nice if I walked into negotiations one day and the employer would say, hey, wait, before you say anything, I want to reward the employees for being so valuable. And I used to tell folks that. And I'd had that happen at one employer. And the employer said, wait, before y'all even put a proposal on the table, I got one for you. And what he proposed was to fire everybody, subcontract to work out. And that was how valuable they felt the employees were. And yeah, it was a battle and it was frustrating. So I never preached that I'd like to get another proposal first from the employer because they're not good. They don't respect us.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of work cut out for us, unfortunately, on the progressive side. So the president was up in arms because Senator Mark Kelly and 5 other politicians went on record as saying that military does not have to follow unlawful orders. It's a constitutional requirement they have to uphold. They're taught that. So Trump, of course, overreacts, and I believe that he had to, because I think there was some things in play that when you put that out there, it puts a spotlight on what the hell was going on. People don't realize, right? And I'm not talking about the things that are happening in South America. I'm saying that Trump has repeatedly said he's going to send the military into our cities. And when his administration first took off, they started firing all the attorneys that work for the military who advised the generals and other leaders in the militaries on what's unlawful or not. And I don't think people understand they were all wiped out. The politicians know that, the congressmen know that, the senators know that. The public might not have paid any attention to it. So there's no buffer in between the generals and the president when they're getting orders. So I think it was not only appropriate, I thought it was their duty to make sure they say, hey, you understand that you have a constitutional duty not to follow unlawful orders. And if Trump was lying when he was saying he was going to send troops into American cities, and like I said, pedophiles often lie. It's kind of part of their DNA, right? They're liars. But it's not up to the folks who are hearing that to say he may be lying and we shouldn't take him at his word. They have to say, wait a minute, what you just said you were going to do is illegal and unconstitutional. And I hope that our military knows that, because even though you fired their legal branch.
Well, when Trump took over, he eliminated the senior staff, the generals and that type of thing. And his excuse was they weren't following the DEI program he wanted to lay out. But the truth of the matter was they were the old guard and they knew the Constitution, and they weren't going to allow a single individual, whether it be a Republican, Democrat, Socialist, Independent, break that Constitution. And he knew that, so he had to get rid of them because they were going to stand up to it. I think this whole thing with Kelly and the other senators, I think that was forced on them because of what they see is going on. That Trump put them in a position that they had to get out and take a stand and say, this is what the Constitution of the United States of America says. It says protect the people. It says you don't have to break the law. And it says you can't break the law in representing our country. And I think that infuriated Trump because his perception is the future is going to be, I'm going to rule and I'm going to break the law in doing it. Now, that's no surprise. That's what he's been doing. And court after court has found him guilty of breaking the law and reverse decisions he's made. So he's positioning himself to do that. Now, on terms of the constitutional thing and protecting Americans, I think the thing in Venezuela in part is like conditioning people to accept the fact that it's okay to kill people if you suspect something. It's okay. All you got to do is listen to Trump and he says it's okay. So when he moves the troops into our cities and starts killing our citizens, he wants people conditioned to accept that it's okay, that, oh, they were just troublemakers. When we were demonstrators and we were trying to enforce our rights under the Constitution, and, we get killed for it. So I think he's trying to condition America. Now, the 6 senators, I think were very brave. I think they're right on target. I commend them for what they've done. I hope that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party says the same thing, that we're going to enforce the Constitution, we're going to enforce the law, and we're not going to put up with illegal conduct by our military forces. Now, you can tell by Trump's reaction that, him being infuriated, that just really put a cog in his wheel of what he wanted to do.
And the irony of this whole thing is, if you want to see who was guilty of sedition, right, and who was trying to overthrow our government, was the January 6th rioters. They were all pardoned. So, and some of them, we might say, were criminal before, during, and after the January 6th riots. So the hypocrisy of those far right-wing nuts to say that what they said that was actually in the part of the Constitution, and to overlook the fact that the folks who tried to overthrow the government were pardoned, I'm just at a loss of words.
Well, I think that points out that Trump likes to surround himself with people that will break the law just to do his bidding. And that's what January 6th was about, was I want to stay in office, go and do what you can do to keep me in office. And people got arrested. And then the first thing he did was pardon them. Well, they were criminals. And this is one of the things that I have a problem with all presidents having the ability to pardon criminals. We have a judicial system. We have a system that brings people before the review board to be released early. And pardoning is undercutting that. And my concern is, I don't know when he's going to do it, but he's going to pardon Maxwell for all the sexual crimes that she committed and helping Epstein. When is that going to happen? I don't know. I'm surprised that hadn't already happened. But I do not agree with that. We're undercutting our judicial system, and Trump is not a person that follows the law. And as you said, I think he's lived his life lying, and that's what he's accustomed to do. He thinks it's okay. He's accustomed to cheating. He's accustomed to stealing. He's accustomed to taking advantage of people. That's what he's going to continue to do.
And he always justified it. Now he figured out a way to how to get 35% of the country, who is his base, to justify what he does as well. So I know Amanda has no moral compass, no platform that he runs on. Look, he kisses communist dictators ass, Putin, constantly. Right? He brought a terrorist into the White House to meet with him like they weren't part of 9/11. And it's based to, if any other president, especially a Democrat, would have said anything about siding with a communist country or bringing in former terrorists into the White House, they would have lost their mind. But they just keep making excuses for him. I was looking at the news today, and I had to do a little research on this Ukraine proposal. And it appears that Putin wrote the proposal, gave it to us, a communist country, our sworn enemy, wrote a proposal that said, although we were the aggressor and we invaded this country and we started killing people for no reason other than we wanted their land and their minerals, here's the proposal we give you. You convince them to take it and we can end this war. If it wasn't for other senators, thank goodness some other Republican senators in Congress and say, "Go, wait a minute, we're not going to kiss Putin's ass. We don't care what Trump says." If they wouldn't have pushed back, he would have put pressure on them to try to accept that offer. And you tell me, when people said that they wanted him in the White House, now you know why. All those folks who think that Russia didn't help Trump get elected the first time and then help him get elected the second time, you're kidding yourself. This is why no other American president would have bent over as much as Trump has for Putin. None.
Well, I think when Trump said that him and Putin were good friends, I think he was telling the truth for once in his life. And I don't think Putin sees him as a friend, but Putin sees him as somebody that is so stupid he can manipulate him very easily, and it has been doing that. And to your point of the proposal being straight from Putin, there was nothing in that for Ukraine. And I am thankful that Ukraine said no, because here's the other part people don't think about. You're rewarding the aggressor. You shouldn't do that. Russia has been our sworn enemy for decades. Alaska is just 100 miles off the coast of Russia. So if they invade Russia or Alaska, what are we supposed to do? Give them Alaska? Give them half of Alaska? Okay. What do? It's the dumbest ass concept that America should endorse, giving Russia part of Ukraine as a peace settlement, because we're going to face the consequences. And we're going to be facing it from two fronts. Putin sees Trump as a weak leader, and so does China. So we're facing on two fronts. And Japan's had to step up on the Taiwan issue because Trump is such a weak leader. And he just is. He doesn't have what it takes to protect our country, much less to reach a peace deal in 24 hours. I mean, he can reach a deal, but he's giving away, the entire store. And that's not a good negotiator.
And folks should understand that the Russia-Ukraine war is not going to end without pressure coming in from the West and continued from Europe. People don't understand that there's only 140 million people in Russia. There's 340 million people in the United States. Some people see the map of Russia and they think, whoa, they match us in population. No, there's 140 million people in Russia. No immigrants are moving to Russia. The only way Russia can increase its population is by taking over countries and the minerals that come with that country. So they're not going to stop at Ukraine because that's not enough. That's just step one. And Europe knows that. And the United States knows that. Trump doesn't know it because he's too freaking stupid. But thank goodness there's some folks in the Senate, even on the Republican side, that are saying they understand this. And they're starting to fight back because it's Russia.
Well, I saw the fall of the USSR, okay, and Putin's trying to rebuild it. And that is a direct threat to Europe, a direct threat to the West. And that's what he's doing. And to reward him is absolutely militarily and is the wrong thing to do. It's a sign of weakness and it shouldn't be done. And the unfortunate thing is that a lot of people have died and a lot of people are going to continue to die because Ukraine's fighting, an enemy that they have to resist. They have to fight them and they have to keep a deal that does not reward them, does not reward Russia.
So as we do every week, we give folks an update on the Epstein sex scandal pedophile ring, which happens to have included in it the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump. And of course, if folks aren't aware, Marjorie Taylor Greene decided to resign at the first week of January because she felt that her party let her down when it came to stopping pedophiles. And I just want to add that we've never been a fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene's politics or ideological views. And we could say we hated them. She never felt threatened. She pissed off the far right and resigned. 3 days later, she needs bodyguards. She's getting death threats. If you want to know where the nuts are and who the violent crew is, just take that into account.
Same is true for Kelly and the other senators. They need additional bodyguards and protection because they stood up and said the right thing for the right reasons. Now, I agree, Marjorie Taylor Greene has not been a person I would have voted for, but at least on the Epstein file, she took the right stance. Now, we have the Department of Justice supposedly having the records. We'll see if they're the Department of Injustice, but it's just another delay. But they could, if in 4 days, a U.S. attorney can get an indictment against Comey and Letitia James, we should have indictments coming out against Trump and the other pedophiles and not wait 3 or 4 years. So we'll see if there's any justice at all.
And I've been saying this for a better part of a year, that with the evidence that they have now, if you brought charges against Trump for being a pedophile, the grand jury would indict him easily. He would have to go to trial. And for me, with all this information that's out there, with all the folks who are saying, hey, you're a pedophile, you notice that he hasn't attacked any of those folks. Because to sue somebody for making that claim mean that with discovery, everything has to come out. But I believe that based on the evidence that Donald Trump is a pedophile, I think his followers know that. but they don't care. I think that Melania was on Epstein's Island and is a part of that ring. And I believe that it not only involves females and young girls, but it also involves males. And I think that's why he doesn't want those files released. There's no reason in the world when you have the victim saying release the files, or at least release the files where my name is involved, that you wouldn't say the only thing we would hold back is the files where there are people in there who don't want their information released. And I haven't heard many folks. I'm assuming it may be some, but okay, you hold that out. This whole shenanigan of let's file charges against Bill Clinton so we don't have to release this. It's so obvious now that Trump is in those files and he's indicated in the pedophile ring, and that he's going to do whatever he takes until he can get as much money out of this whole presidency as he can before he moves on.
Well, him and his family get as much money. You know, I think that with as much information that the public already knows, we know there's like 20 names or more that's already been put out there. The Department of Justice could move forward, right now. And yeah, it's going to involve both parties, in my opinion. Okay. I mean, there's going to be people in the Democratic Party and people in the Republican Party that's named in those files. So be it. And it's going to shake up our system. It should, because we as US citizens should be demanding that the representatives be respectful, follow the law in all cases. And we as voters hold all politicians accountable. Now, the Department of Justice is going to say, oh, we're running an investigation. They're going to continue to delay it. I think that's wrong. Okay. There's no justice in delay. You know what I found interesting when I was researching for this podcast is the people that Trump has surrounded himself with. Pete Hegseth, he was accused of raping a woman at a convention, and he had to give her hush money. And I forgot what year it was. I think it was 2007. But his mother said he's always been abusive to women. So who does Trump line himself up with? He lines himself up with people who look down on women, don't think that women are their equals. They're objects for them to use and abuse. And in line with the way Epstein, Maxwell, Trump, and now Hesketh has been portrayed. I mean, it's horrible.
And I agree with you 100% when you say, I don't care if it's Republican, Democrat, Independent. If you're a rapist, a sex pedophile, you need to be in jail. And I don't care if you burn in hell. Here's something that people need to understand. If you're a pedophile and they don't stop you, that means you're continuing harming little girls. So if there are folks out there, this ring that's out there, if nobody stopped it because they just put Epstein and hid him and then actually let him go and continue attacking little girls while he was on work release, how many other folks right now has continued to hurt little girls and boys, and we're letting it go because we want to hide a couple people's names in high places? So it's not just the make sure we punish the folks who did it in the past. We want to make sure we find out who continue to do it, who did they link up with. We need to get all those folks.
And we need to send a strong message out throughout, not just our country, but to the world, that kind of abuse of underage children is not going to be tolerated.
And I'm telling folks that this is to the far right wing nuts, because some of you are watching. You've lost your credibility. Nobody cares what you think anymore. You can't support a pedophile and a rapist and a felon, and you think that your comments fall on listening ears. Soon as I look at a comment, whether it be on the internet on Facebook or whatever, my only reply is that man's a pedophile and you're protecting pedophiles. Whatever you got to say, nobody wants to hear. You lost all credibility. And I know if you're amongst yourselves, you can keep yourselves propped up. You can talk all you want to each other. But outside of your 33%, nobody really cares what you have to say because you're pedophile protectors.
Well, and I look at it is that you will wear this the rest of your life. Okay? This is who you are. You blocked justice. You said it was okay for pedophiles to rape underage girls and boys. And you did it by looking the other way. You maybe you didn't say verbally, but you did it by inaction. And you are guilty. And you're going to carry that the rest of your life.
And I would want to hear them answer this question. What will you do when your granddaughter or great granddaughter comes to you and says, Daddy or Mommy, you're in the picture with those hats on that the pedophile had on. Did you know? Could he have done that to me? What are you going to say? We didn't know? You're going to lie to your grandkids or your great-grandkids? Or for some of the younger MAGA nuts, are you going to lie to your children and your daughters, your little boys, and tell them that, no, I didn't know?
Along that line, if some of these MAGA folks, their underage daughter or underage boy comes and tells them that they've been sexually abused, are you, as a parent, are you going to do anything about it? Or are you going to say, well, that's just the way it is?
Or are you going to be like P. Diddy folks or other celebrities, R. Kelly, right? Those folks who preyed on young people, even Hugh Hefner, because after I'm looking at some of the girls that were in his mansion, are you going to just say that to yourselves, if it benefits me, I'll serve my granddaughter or my grandson up to them? If I can get benefit, whether financially or politically, would you do that? I'm starting to wonder if these folks, if you're protecting pedophiles, you must think that it's okay. And if you think that it's okay, then you're not going to protect your youngins. So, my brother, we come to an end of another episode. When this airs, it'll be after Thanksgiving. So, I'm hoping that everybody had a great Thanksgiving. And if you're watching this, you made it through another Thanksgiving, so you're blessed.
Yep. Can I say one more thing, if I may? And I'm saying this to all the parents out there that have children in the military. I'm saying this to all the people that are in the military. Your child or yourself, if you don't follow the Constitution and you don't follow the law, you can be prosecuted. You don't want to see your child or yourself in prison because you followed blindly. I wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving.
So, folks, we've come to the end of another episode. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe button and leave your comments below. I'm interested in what you're thinking. Unless you're a far right-wing MAGA nut, and you already know, I don't give a damn what you're thinking. But as we head into this holiday season, I want to make sure I give shout outs to all those folks who've given their time and volunteering to feed the homeless and to feed the needy. And this week's shout out goes to Tony Malone in Washington County. Keep doing what you're doing, Miss Malone. Those folks appreciate it and they surely need it. So until next week, let's stay in this fight and keep this country out of hand of those far right-wing nuts. Peace.
Please be a part of protecting our Constitution. Take a stand and sign the petition now through the link in our description.